Hey y'all, today I'm going to be showing you how to create your own DIY face cast at home. This is going to be the easiest and most affordable amateur way on how you can do this. I'm going to be sharing all my tips with you and even my mistakes, that way I can help you avoid those same mistakes if you're going to be creating this yourself. I will be letting you know all the items that I use throughout the video, but I'll also leave it linked in the description down below. So if you want your own face cast, then just keep on watching. Quick disclaimer, if you are somebody who struggles with claustrophobia or tight spaces, this may not be the project for you. Your eyes and your mouth will be completely covered and you'll just be able to breathe through your nostrils. So keep that in mind. If you are not very experienced in this, please make sure you have somebody with you in the room as you do this, just in case anything goes wrong, they can help you, even if you have done this before. I have my boyfriend in the room with me the entire time, just in case. Also, make sure you patch test the plaster on your skin, just to be sure that you're not allergic to anything. And keep in mind, I'm not a professional. Okay, so let's get into it. As you can see, I'm plastic wrapping my entire head. This is because I'm going to be putting the plaster bandages past my hairline, and I don't want any of that getting into my hair. So once it looks like this, we can start prepping the skin. I used Vaseline and covered my entire face with it, really focusing on the eyebrows and the eyelashes. If you skip this step, you're going to rip out your eyelashes and your eyebrows. I did it and I still had some that came out, so please do not skip this step. So to build up your face mold, you're going to take these plaster bandages and cut them into different sizes and then dip them in a bowl of water and drain out the water so that way you activate the plaster. Then you want to just start placing it on your head wherever you want to start. I started from top to bottom and I took this way past my hairline because I wanted to ensure that I had a lot of head space to work on prosthetics in the final product. Make sure you're really rubbing in those plaster bandages on your skin, that way you don't have any holes. And then just in case you do have any holes, you're going to go over this with a few layers. I like to say 2 to 3, that way your face mold can be very strong. When you place the plaster inside of this mold, it won't really move around. And you want to be really careful when it comes to this step around the nose. You want to make sure you get as much detail as possible without covering your nostrils, because that is going to be the only way that you'll be able to breathe. So please, please be careful with that area. You'll also notice that I'm taking these bandages all the way down to my chest. That's because I wanted to have a neck and a base to this entire face cast. This is optional, but I preferred it, so when I'm working, it can actually stand up on its own. So now I'm covering the eyes, and this part does get a little bit scary because you aren't going to be able to see anything. So this is where having somebody else in the room with you comes in handy, just in case you know, I don't know, anything goes wrong, they can kind of help you because you won't be able to see. But I just kind of was feeling around and making sure that I went over all of these sensitive areas 2 to 3 times so that everything was going to be really strong. Once you've covered everything, then you just sit and wait and let this entire thing dry. I'm not gonna lie to you, I had to pause a couple of times while trying to take this off because I almost had a panic attack because it didn't feel like it wanted to come off. I almost got scared it was going to be stuck, but eventually it came off. Look how cool that looks. So this is what you're left with, a mold of your face. And I trimmed the bottom of it, that way it could just kind of be more organized and clean. I'm going to add some plaster strips to the base right there so we can kind of create a wall for the plaster to sit in so my face cast can sit up just like this. So I use the same plaster bandages, and ideally you would want to thicken this wall up with 2 to 3 layers, but I ran out of bandages, so this was literally only 1 layer and it was not enough, but we made it work. To fill my mold, I'm using plaster of Paris, and I was just taught to pour in the center of the water until you form a little island, and then that's how you know you have enough. But yes, so we're going to mix it into a little bowl, and then before you pour it, you want to make sure that you line the inside of your mold with Vaseline, because plaster sticks to plaster, and if you don't do that, you will never get this wrap off of your face cast. So as you can see, my wall was definitely not thick enough, but I just poured the plaster anyways, and then once it got to this consistency where it's like almost like melted ice cream, this is where you can be more precise on where you place the plaster. For some reason, I had a lot of anxiety that this was going to be really top heavy, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in this base, so I just really wanted to focus as much plaster as I could here at the bottom. That way it would be strong enough to hold the entire mold. In the end, I'm pretty sure it would have been fine if I would have filled the entire face cast regardless, but again, that was just my anxiety, so I kind of smoothed out this area until I was happy with the base. So you're going to want to let that plaster dry at least overnight. You can even wait 2 days. This is not going to be a fast process, but I started peeling away the plaster bandages, and I used a box cutter to kind of cut around some edges just to make sure that I didn't damage the plaster cast underneath. And here you can kind of see what I was talking about with my anxiety about this being top heavy. I made sure not to pour too much plaster at the top of my head, even though I had plenty of room to do so. I don't know why, I just felt like it was going to tip over, but in the end I think it would have been fine. But this is the really exciting part where you get to kind of see what it's going to look like, and it was kind of trippy to see my face like this. Once we got all the bandages off, I was really able to see where I needed to improve on some things, like the base. It was leaning on one side, so I wanted to make sure that it was flat, and I just took some ceramic carving tools and evened out the bottom and made sure to keep it at a specific angle. I wanted it to be able to sit up like this, that way I can work on it while it stands. This is one of the most satisfying parts, where you can take some tools and gently go over the surface of your face just to kind of work out those details and smooth everything out as much as possible. Make sure you're being really delicate with this step because plaster is really soft, and if you put too much pressure you could risk a scratch or damage on your face cast. Next, I'm taking these fine grit sanding blocks and I'm going over the entire surface to smooth everything out. One side of this block is like sandpaper and the other side is kind of like a sponge. So I use the sandpaper side to even out the surface, and then I use the sponge side to really smooth everything out. Take your time with this step because this part is really important to make sure that you have a smooth surface when we seal everything up. And now for the most important part in my opinion, I am sealing the plaster with acrylic gesso. This is normally used on canvases to prime the canvas for painting, but I noticed that in most tutorials people skip this step, and I'm not sure why. They would just go straight in with glue to seal the plaster, but when I tried doing that, the glue just peeled off of my face cast. So I figured I needed to seal it because it was still kind of damp, and this acrylic gesso worked perfectly. It dries down matte and clearly it's white, so the glue was really able to stick to this perfectly. You can see on the back end, I went around the edges because I knew that these are going to be spots that I'm going to be grabbing a lot when I'm working with my face cast, and I didn't want those spots to be brittle, so this also gave a little bit of strength to my face cast. And you can also see that I don't cover the very center of the back of my head on here. That's because I'm allowing a space for any moisture that's left in the plaster to escape. If you don't do that, it will mold. Now here I'm just showing you some wood glue that I used for the base. I did only use this one on the base because it does dry down yellow, and I didn't want to use that on the rest of my face cast. On the rest of it, I used the clear one, which is the smaller bottle here, and you can use a sponge brush like this. You can also use like a beauty sponge, if like those disposable ones, the dollar ones, if you want to use that, but you just want to cover the entire surface of your face cast at least 2 to 3 times, and make sure that you let this dry between each layer. I worked on this entire thing in sections by doing the face and then the neck and then of course the base, and letting it dry in front of a fan between each layer in each section. Make sure you take your time with this step because you want to ensure that you have a good seal all over your face cast. If not, you will have to do it all over again. And as much work as this whole process takes, trust me, you do not want to mess up. This is what your face cast should look like, perfect and ready for prosthetics or any creative work you have in mind. So that is the semi-quick and easy way to create your very own face cast at home. I have mine right here, and as you can see, I'm already using it to create my next makeup look. So that's a little sneak peek for you. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them down in the comments, and make sure you are subscribed and follow me on TikTok and Instagram. That way you can see how my face cast is going to be used so often in all of my upcoming makeup looks. Thank you guys again for watching. I hope this helped, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye y'all.